Hello, thank you for joining me for this edition of 365 Days of Public Speaking. My name is Lionel Yementu. Tonight, you will walk away with 5 steps or 5 ways on how to be a good listener. 5 ways to be a good listener. Listening is a skill that some people don't realize plays an important or even critical part in speaking and communication. You should be able to develop listening skills to the extent that makes people perceive you as a great communicator. How do you then become a good listener? 5 steps or 5 ways. Number 1, focus on the message. When people speak to you, whether it's in a group, whether you are addressing an audience, or whether you're part of an audience being addressed, or on one-on-one situation during one-on-one conversations, you must be able to focus on the message. What is the person saying? Focus on that, zoom in on that. A lot of miscommunication takes place because we don't pay attention to what the message is. Communication is a process that involves 3 parts. First is the sender, next is the recipient, and then in the middle you have the message. So those 3 parts are what create communication. If you miss the message when someone is trying to communicate, to send someone some information or some data across to you, then you're out of the conversation, you're not communicating. You are not listening well. Focus on the message. That was number 1. Number 2, control emotional reactions. Depending on what time of the day it is, or depending on the nature of the information that is being shared with you, you might be emotionally involved in a way that makes you react in a sense that distracts you from what the person is saying. To be a good listener, you have to be able to control your emotional reaction, especially if you work in situations where you have to decide, make judgments. For example, a police officer needs to be able to control emotional reactions, because if you are called, for example, to make a decision to stop a fight in a home, a lot of you watching are not going to have to do that, but if that happens to you, you want to be able to listen to what is being said without being emotionally involved in what the person or what the scenario is. That was number 2, control your emotional reactions. Number 3, set aside personal problems. That's one way to be a good listener. Set aside personal problems. Your problems might affect, or whatever challenge you are going through or have to overcome might affect how you receive the message that is being transferred to you, that is being transmitted to you. You want to be able to control and set aside your personal problems. That is going to help you become a good listener. Because if someone is telling you about how he wants to solve world hunger in 5 years, and you at that time are hungry, you're not going to be listening well. You need to be able to take your own hunger problem, put it aside, and listen to what the person is saying. That is one way to be a good listener. That was number 3, set aside personal problems. Number 4, listen despite distractions. Most of the time when you are in one-on-one situations, when you are not in controlled environment, where you have only one or a few group of people that have to listen to what someone is saying, you are going to have to deal with distractions. Sometimes it could be music, sometimes it could be other people talking, sometimes it could be a background noise. That is not music but something else. It could be a truck moving across the street or anything, a host of different things that could be distractions. You want to train yourself to listen despite the distractions. You should be able to filter out all the noise and zoom in. Create like a bubble where you are and you and the person communicating to you, speaking to you, you are in that bubble and everything that happens outside is not part of your world at that point in time. That was way number 4 to be a good listener. Way number 5, ignore speaker mannerism. If I'm speaking to you and what I'm saying is really important, and you focus on what my hands are doing, despite the fact that they could be distracting, you might miss out on the message that I'm saying. I could be doing this and that. I could be doing things that make no sense, but if you focus on the message by being a good listener, ignoring the mannerisms. And some people pick their nose as they're speaking without realizing that they are picking their nose. But if I'm talking to you about how to abolish slavery back in the 60s and 50s and 40s, and because I'm picking my nose at the time I'm speaking to you, you miss the message, that's not the best. You want to be able to be a good listener. Train yourself to tune out speakers' mannerisms as early as you can during the communication. There are more ways that you can be a good listener. Tomorrow I'm going to shoot a different video with part 2 of how to be a good listener. But let's review what we talked about today. How do you become a good listener? Number 1, focus on the message. What is the person actually saying? Zoom in on that. Number 2, control emotional reaction. Don't get emotionally involved in what the person is saying. You should be able to hold yourself back. Number 3, set aside personal problems. Regardless of whatever challenge you are going through at that point in time, don't let that affect how you receive and perceive what the speaker or what the message is trying to tell you at that point in time. Number 4, listen despite distractions. Learn how to create a bubble where you lock yourself in with the speaker that is talking to you. Regardless of whether the speaker is boring or not, that's a different subject, but you should be practicing the art of creating that bubble where you find yourself with the speaker, tuning out distractions. And number 5, ignore speaker's mannerisms. Whatever the speaker does, consciously or not, as he speaks or as she speaks, don't pay any attention to that. Those are just distractions. Learn how to ignore them. And distractions could be not only with movements, but they could also be verbal. Things that people say without realizing that they use that to punctuate every single sentence that they say. That's basically about it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will continue tomorrow with 5 more ways to be a good listener. Again, remember to share this video with a friend or 2 if you like it. I know you did. I know you did. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're having fun, and I'll see you again tomorrow for the next video. Thank you.